Waiting on a few more viewers. I'll get started. I'm going to give it about 3 more minutes before I start, just to make sure to see if anybody else is coming in. Either way, this is recording, so later on I can share it and it'll be on YouTube until I take it down. So and then I have my Facebook open in the background for if anyone wants to message. So I'll start at about 8:35, 8:40. And then I have a clipboard with my notes so that I can kind of stay on track and remember what I've talked about and what I haven't talked about to keep everything up to date. And then I have my little pamphlet also that has some information on it. If I forget something, I can just look at it. One minute and then I'm gonna start. One minute. And then I will start, and then we'll start off with information. What I plan to do is I'm just going to start off with giving kind of a background about circumcision and where it came from and that type of things, and then I'll kind of go into the actual debate of what people actually, what the debate is. Alrighty. Okay, so I know just about everybody knows what circumcision is, but either way, I think it's a good idea just to kind of get started on sorry, everybody's kind of messaging me here. So I'm going to kind of get started on telling a definition of what circumcision is. If you Google circumcise definition, just those two words, and it'll give you the Google's definition of what circumcision is. And this is what I found Google's definition for circumcision is. The first definition is to cut off the foreskin of a young boy, man, or especially a baby as a religious rite, especially in Judaism and Islam, or as medical treatment. The second definition is partially or totally remove the external genitalia of a girl or woman for non-medical reasons. Now I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit too, because I think that's just kind of silly to have. On the boys, it's okay if it's as medical treatment, but then on the girls, it says, oh, it's non-medical, period. The reason I want to go into that is because of the medical reasons behind circumcision. Originally, if you kind of go back and look at the history of circumcision, they start off saying that it'll help keep boys from masturbating, it'll help prevent them from having toilet accidents, it'll help with bedwetting, it'll help with, I'm trying to think here, it'll help with eating disorders. Like, there's all this crazy stuff that just, it makes no sense whatsoever. So for me to hear them say that it's medical is a little silly. And then knowing on top of that, the medical reasons that they give now are also relatively bogus. The first medical reason, which is kind of the highest reason I always hear people say, is it prevents STDs and HIV. Now, the reason that I find this silly is because one of the biggest reasons is we are, for a modern country that we have some of the top highest HIV rates in the world. I think honestly the second in line would be I think it's Africa, or they're above us. I think we're like second or third of the highest is America. And it just kind of, it's silly because it's like, if we are counteracting HIV rates so well, then why do we have such high rates? If that is what's going to counteract it so amazingly well, then we should not have as high of rates as we have. And on top of that, so we're going to circumcise our sons, and on top of that, tell them to wear condoms. Why can't we just tell them to wear condoms in the first place and practice safe sex? Why is it so hard to just be like, wear your condom, know who you're having sex with, know their background with their sexual partners and their history? Just remind, why can't we just teach our sons to practice safe sex? What does, and even still, the rates that they shown on the the CDC website, the studies that they've done on HIV rates all come from I think I found 3 from the Americas, and the rest were from Africa, which already has ridiculously high HIV rates, a history of these men with AIDS and HIVs raping women, and vice versa. So to say that there's a higher chance of it preventing HIV is a bit silly, because we're testing people and doing studies on places that, 1, have high rates, and 2, just everything about the country is relatively corrupt. They're not getting any backgrounds on these people, on their sexual history, nothing. Like, I feel like it's not a controlled study, period. It was not controlled. And even still, again, back to the whole safe sex thing. Why are we not teaching our sons safe sex? Why do we have to tell them, oh, you have to get circumcised to prevent HIV, but you also have to have safe sex? No, it makes no sense. The next one is it prevents UTIs. As a woman, I've had, I don't even know how many UTIs in my life so far. Women have the highest rates of UTIs, and yet we're telling men that they have to be circumcised to prevent a UTI. A UTI is a urinary tract infection, usually caused by bacteria, actually always caused by bacteria, my bad. So why are we telling them that they have to be circumcised to prevent them? Why can't we just give them antibiotics like we do? Or even do natural treatment, you know, drink a ton of cranberry juice. That works perfectly fine. There's no need for circumcision to prevent UTIs. Men don't even have high rates of UTIs in the first place. The next one is cancer. They say, oh, it helps keep cancer, prevent cancer. Penile cancer, you won't get penile cancer. Okay, penile cancer compared to the rates in breast cancer is ridiculous. You have breast cancer up here with all these high rates, and the penile cancer is so far down on here that I can't even, you can't see that on the camera. It's kind of silly that we're going to say, oh, you have to cut off your foreskin so that you don't get cancer, but we're not telling women, oh, you got to cut off your child's breasts so that they don't get breast cancer. And even still, why? No, I don't know a single man ever in my life have I ever come across somebody saying that's somebody they knew or somebody that I knew had penile cancer. It's silly to even think that that is even a possibility. Another reason, it's cleaner. That's the big one. It's cleaner. It's easier to clean. And I want to kind of quote this. If you go onto the Mayo Clinic and look up circumcision for male circumcision, and under there on the second page, it says easier hygiene. It talks about reasons for circumcision. It says easier hygiene. Circumcision makes it simpler to wash the penis. Washing beneath the foreskin of an uncircumcised penis is generally easy, however. They say right on there that it is easy to clean an intact penis. It is not necessary to cut off skin just to keep an area clean. And even still, with an infant, you don't even have to retract the foreskin. It's not going to be retractable for years until they really hit puberty, and even sometimes a little bit after that. You only clean what is seen. If intact, do not retract, only clean what is seen. I'm going to be repeating this through this entire video because that is an extremely important thing for children, for infants, and for young children, because doctors are still telling parents to retract the foreskin to clean underneath it, and you do not need to do that until it is retractable. And even still, by the time that point comes around, your child should be cleaning themselves. And even still, when it comes to cleaning themselves, I'm sure they're going to be doing that plenty of times when they take a shower. It's not hard to wash up. Women, we have how many folds with our vagina, our vulva, we have a ridiculous amount of folds. And we're not sitting down there having to scrub every little single area. We clean up and we're good. When we use the bathroom, we're not have to sit there and wash every single time. We wipe up and we're good. Same thing with men. They don't need to sit there and have to wash and scrub every time they go to the bathroom. They're not going to get an infection. That's the other thing I want to address. I've heard so many people say the foreskin causes infections. The reason I want to say this is because it's driving me nuts. Foreskin does not cause an infection. Your face does not cause an infection. Your hand does not cause, you get a cut on your hand and it gets infected. It's not caused by your hand. It's caused by bacteria getting on your hand. That is what is causing the infection. With a penis, the foreskin is not causing the infection. What's causing the infection would be not having proper hygiene and bacteria getting built up underneath there. And even still, it's going to take, you have to have not been washing for weeks for that to even possibly happen. It's not going to happen. Now, going off of medical, some of the other reasons that people circumcise is because they say it looks better, it looks prettier. And I've seen this a lot where people say, oh, but especially women, they say, oh, it looks prettier. I like a penis that's circumcised. They look better. And yes, I don't care if you have a certain preference. Men prefer bigger boobs or smaller boobs or bigger butt, smaller butt, whatever. That's fine. That's their preference. But it does not mean that you get to take your child and get a cosmetic procedure performed on them just so they can fit your sexual pleasure, like your sexual preference. Are you going to be having sex with your son? Didn't think so. So why would you turn around and have him circumcised for your sexual preference? How do you know he's not going to marry a woman who would prefer an intact penis? You can't, that's just not okay. That would be like going and having your daughter have a breast implant, because how would okay, let's restate this. How would you feel if your husband took your daughter and got her a breast implant because he preferred larger breasts? It's the same thing you're doing to your son. You are having him get a cosmetic procedure done that is extremely painful because you prefer a circumcised penis. That's nonsense. Another thing would be, sorry, we are going to have an infant with us here. Another one is women say they want them to match their fathers. If the father is circumcised, the women want their sons to match their fathers because they don't want them to feel left out or different than daddy, or they want them to just look like their daddy or whatever. That's stupid too. My son looks nothing like his dad. I mean, it's just not going to happen. He looks just like me. That's just the dumbest thing ever. And even still, he does not see his dad's penis. It's not something we don't. And even if he did see his dad's penis, if he ever asked about something like that, I would explain it to him. It's not that hard to explain why somebody looks different. I'm sure my daughters will look different than me. I'm sure they will either have larger or smaller breasts than I will. I'm sure they will have my daughter that I'm nursing right now, she has blue eyes. I have brown eyes. She has blue eyes. And if she asks why her eyes are blue and mine are brown and they look different, I will tell her because her daddy has blue eyes. Or it's that simple. You just explain it to them. They usually don't care. It's not like they're going to be like, oh my God, you didn't get me circumcised because, and now I look different than daddy and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure if you explain to your son that you cut him because you wanted him to look like his father, that he will think you are crazy. Now, a lot of people, including myself, we consider circumcision mutilation, genital mutilation, just like female genital mutilation. We consider it male genital mutilation. Reason being, the foreskin is actually extremely important to the penis. It keeps the glands soft and moist, which it should be, just like your vulva and your vagina and everything should be moist. The same thing as the foreskin provides the glands with that moisture that is needed to keep it from being callous, and it keeps it sensitive. The foreskin also has over 20,000 nerve endings, which is also helps with sexual pleasure, which is also necessary. So cutting it off is basically you're just cutting off a very important, it's like you wouldn't remove your eyelids because you felt that your eyelids were going to cause an infection, or you wanted it to look like somebody else who didn't have eyelids or anything. It's pointless. Men need their foreskin. It's a necessary part of their anatomy. The foreskin, if you do not know the foreskin, the functions of the foreskin, the purpose of the foreskin, then you should not be getting your son circumcised. That period. There's no need. Another thing is, I feel that circumcision falls into the feminist movement. The reason being is because feminism is a fight for having equality of the sexes. Women, we have been protected from circumcision for years. I can get the exact date. 1 second. I can never remember for some reason. We have been protected since 1996. And what's funny about that is in 1920, the 19th Amendment protects against, it provides gender equality. So to say that we are protected against female circumcision, that would mean that males are also protected against male circumcision because of that law, because of equality of the genders. Males are protected. Sorry, I have a few questions and stuff coming in. So I feel that the feminist movement has evolved because of the fact that if we're going to protest and be active about having equality of the sexes, then this would be a very big point, is if we want to have equality as women, we should be providing that same equality for our men and our sons. We cannot say, oh, well, we are protected, but you're not, and that's just fine, because that's just as bad as, hold on a second, what?
I'm hot.
Okay, I'll turn you around in a minute.
Okay.
That is just as bad as a man saying, well, you can't, I'm just trying to think of something, you can't work because you're a woman. That's just like telling a man, oh, well, you can't be protected from circumcision because you're a man and your penis is gross. No, that just does not work. We cannot, as feminists, we cannot say that a man is not protected from the same law that we are protected from. We can't do it. It's wrong. It's against the law in every way. So we really should not be doing that. Another myth is that circumcision is just a snip, that it's just a little piece of skin. Technically, it's not. When they're a baby, yeah, it may seem like a little piece of skin. But when a man grows, just like when a woman grows, her breasts grow bigger. A man's penis grows larger. That foreskin would grow larger. It grows on average to the size of 15 square inches, which is about the size of an index card. What?
I don't like dark.
You having that light?
But it's still dark.
Go to bed, please. Thank you. Sorry for the interruptions. But the foreskin grows to the size of an index card. So you cannot say that it's just a little snip, because it grows to be more than just a little snip. It's more than just that. Another myth is that babies don't feel it or that they sleep through it. The reason that is a myth is because in most cases, either anesthetic is not provided or it's provided but they don't wait for it to kick in fully, and on top of that, most of the time it does not provide adequate pain relief. And on top of that, most of the time, thank you, Ashley, most of the time parents do not provide their sons with anything for pain. They don't provide them with Tylenol. They don't provide them with any kind of pain relief after. How would you feel getting your finger sliced, the skin just skinned off of your finger? And I'm just using your finger, which is not as sensitive as your penis, as a male's penis. How would you feel having that skin sliced off and then being sent home with some gauze wrapped around it, and then having urine and feces poured on it regularly, then to turn around and have it washed and wiped off regularly, at least once an hour, and then not given any pain relief for it? It'd be painful as hell. Excuse my language, but it would be. I don't see how anybody could say that a baby does not feel that pain. And on top of that, yes, their nervous system is extremely fresh. It is extremely, it's not fully functioning in the sense that it's not complete. They feel it. Their nerves are extremely sensitive when they're new because their nervous system hasn't completely connected. That doesn't mean they can't feel it. That means that they're more sensitive because their body can't recognize where they're feeling the pain, how much of that pain they are feeling. So most of the time when these babies are sleeping, they're either unconscious or they're in shock, which unconscious would fall into being in shock. They're not going to just sit there and take it. It's painful. And when they're screaming and crying, it's horrid. I don't see how anybody can say they don't feel it or that it doesn't hurt or they sleep through it. The one thing that I feel everybody should do, if they have not done it yet, is to watch a video of a circumcision with the original volume. If you can get through that, then you probably should see a psychiatrist. I can watch surgery after surgery. I've watched multiple surgery. I've watched C-sections. It doesn't bother me. I love watching medical things. I love watching C-sections and surgeries and everything medical. It just fascinates me. Circumcision, I have not been able to get past them giving the baby the shot for the anesthetic. I've watched a little bit past that, and as soon as they start separating the foreskin, which would mean that they're taking and jamming a surgical utensil into the foreskin and separating it from the glands by ripping it, and the baby screams, I can't handle that. I don't know any person who could. I don't see how doctors and nurses can handle that. I don't see how parents who have gone and watched their child be mutilated can watch that. It is horrible. I've only heard a baby cry like that one other time, and that was when my son was sick before he got his surgery. He could not eat, and it was painful for him. That's the only time I've ever heard a baby scream like that. It's horrible. So that's one thing I think everybody should do, is at least watch a video of a circumcision. If you can get through that, then you probably should be seen by a psychiatrist. Another thing is people say that he'll be laughed at if he's not circumcised, which I find is wrong, because what's funny is 15% of the world is circumcised. Everybody else is not. So how would he be laughed at when most of the world is actually not circumcised? In the U.S., actually just the North Americas are the only area in the world that routinely circumcises infants for medical purposes. Like, we have the highest rates, and it's ridiculous. There's no reason to have it that high. Now, I want to go on to cultural and religious reasons behind this, because I feel that that also falls into a big problem with people when it comes to circumcision. Is they're concerned that that God will shun them or anything like that for it. My first comment to that is, and I'm a Christian woman. I love my God. I have nothing against anybody else's beliefs. I fully support any belief that's your belief, go for it. As a Christian woman, I love God. And I know that my God would not want me to harm my children or anybody else's children. If you feel that you need to circumcise your son for God to love him, or for God to love you, then you need to reread the Bible. The Old Testament is the only one that even says anything about circumcision being necessary. And that would mean only Jews at this point would need to even consider just using the Bible as justification for circumcision. And even still, many Jews are revoking that. They're not doing it. The Jewish version of circumcision is actually only supposed to be a tiny little snip at the tip. It's literally supposed to be a tiny little cut. And they've strayed away from that as well. But many people are using a symbolic version of circumcision so that they can represent their Jewish culture without harming their child. It kind of falls into his body, his choice. If he feels that it's necessary to get circumcised later in life, then that should be left up to him. Before I go on to Christianity some more, I want to also address Muslim. I have not looked extremely far into it. By what I have come across has been what I've read, which, like, again, I may be wrong, is that the only reason Muslims even consider circumcision is because it has been said to be cleanlier, which a lot of people use the cleanliness as godliness. But again, you're going to cut your child to be cleaner, which is nonsense. So that's the only thing I've seen of reason for Muslims to be circumcising, is because it's cleaner. So I don't know much about that. Just maybe somebody else can inform on that. I'm not sure. But back to Christianity. In the New Testament, so the Old Testament is the only one that actually says that it's necessary. In the New Testament, it is not necessary. It is said repeatedly that it's not necessary. The reason, hold on one moment. What, Jameson?
boring.
Well, open your door and turn the hallway light on.
It's not even
Turn the hallway light on and open your door. Okay, then go lay down. In the New Testament, it states there, one of the verses that I absolutely love. It says, it's 1 Corinthians, it's 7:18-19. It says, was anyone called while circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Was anyone called while uncircumcised? Let him not be circumcised. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but keeping the commandments of God is what matters. But in fact, God has arranged the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. 1 Corinthians 12:18. So as you can tell, and that's just two. There are multiple verses stating that circumcision is not necessary to be blessed by God. And a lot of people try to argue that. We're like, well, why does the Old Testament state that, but then the New Testament say that not? Which one should I follow? If you are a Christian, you follow the New Testament. Yes, you still follow some of the Old Testament, but certain things have been revised in the New Testament. That is what the New Testament was after Jesus died on the cross for our sins. The New Testament was the revision of the Old Testament. So yes, you still follow certain things in the Old Testament, but if it has been revised by the New Testament, then you no longer follow it. You follow what the New Testament says. Circumcision was a form of bloodletting. It was a sacrifice for our sins. Since Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins, we no longer have to provide a blood sacrifice. We just have to be baptized. So the Bible, there's no need to circumcise when you are a Christian. I'll probably discuss a few more things, and then I'll leave the floor open if anybody wants to get on cam or even on microphone to talk, or if there's any other questions. I haven't gotten any questions or anything yet. Another thing I want to mention is surgery. The difference between surgery and mutilation. I meant to keep this going. Surgery. This is the definition for surgery. The art, practice, or work of treating diseases, injury, or deformities by manual or operation procedures. So treating diseases, injuries, or deformities. That is surgery. Circumcision is not the treatment of any disease, injury, or deformity. Circumcision is not a deformity, it's not an injury, and it's not a disease. So circumcision is not a surgery. It's a cosmetic surgery, but it's not a necessary surgery. It's not medical surgery. To mutilate, to injure, disfigure, or make imperfect by removing or irreparably damaging parts. To deprive of a person of a limb or other essential part. Back against that, the foreskin is necessary. It is, I already discussed that on why it's necessary and its functions. So technically, circumcision is mutilation because it's depriving, it's injuring, it's disfiguring, and it's removing a part of the body, a necessary part of the body. So yeah, it's mutilation. It's not surgery. There's no question about that. And as a parent, it is not your right. That's another one. It's my personal choice, my personal right as a parent. The definition of personal is to make a decision for one's own person. So that personal choice does not mean making a decision for somebody else. It means making a decision for yourself, not your child, not your father, not your husband, not your mother, not your sister, for yourself. That is personal. And as a parent, your responsibility as a parent is to provide for your child, to raise your child, to guide them to make proper decisions for themselves in life, not cut them or injure them just to fit what you feel is a necessary or an appropriate or pretty or to just fit anything that you feel necessary. You wouldn't go and get your baby a tattoo just because you think they look cool. So why are you cutting off a foreskin to make the penis look better? It's not necessary. I've also had people say, well, we amputate injured limbs and we cut out our kids' tonsils when they're sick and this, that, and other. Is that child abuse? No, it's not, because that is an injured or sick or diseased part of the body. It needs to come out or your child will die. Foreskin is not injured. It's not diseased. It's not infected. It doesn't need to come off. There's no need for it. It's not medical. It's cosmetic. I can't stress that enough. And appendicitis. If you get your child's appendix removed because they have appendicitis, it's because it has appendicitis. It's not if you're removing it just to remove it, yeah, then that would be comparable because you're just removing it just because. But even still, you can't really compare it. Like you can't say that a medical procedure is like a cosmetic procedure. The only thing that you can compare circumcision to would be other cosmetic procedures. So liposuction, breast implants, Botox, even female circumcision, or AKA female genital mutilation. I love how CDC, they try to put circumcision for males and then they call female circumcision female genital mutilation. They're the same thing. Yeah, our genitalia looks different, but technically if you look up how it's formed, each are formed in the womb, you'll see that they start off the same and there's only a few things that change. Other than that, female and male genital mutilation are the same. You can't say circumcision for one and mutilation for the other. The only reason they do that is to try to get people to think that circumcision's okay. It's not. So I think I've covered everything. I really hope I have. I've covered the laws. I've covered the religious backgrounds, the health. I mean, I feel that everybody should look everything up. Also, that's the other thing. Complications of infant circumcision. Some of the complications are bleeding, infection, excessive foreskin removed, which means when he's older and he has an erection, it's going to be painful. He'll probably bleed. He'll probably either need surgery or he'll have to try to restore. Adhesions, which means the foreskin will try to adhere back to the glands because that's where it's supposed to be. It's like if you cut your finger and it starts healing and closing back, that's what the penis is trying to do, is heal itself because the foreskin is supposed to be there. Skin bridges, inclusion cysts, abnormal healing, which if you've ever heard of a crooked penis, a lot of times that's caused by circumcision. Metitis, needle stenosis, urinary retention. They cannot pee or they have a hard time peeing. That's what cracks me up too, is you're worried about UTIs, but you don't care about urinary retention. That's worse, in my opinion. That's going to cause more UTIs. If you are holding your pee or you can't pee, you're going to have a UTI because that urine is not leaving the body. That bacteria is just building up. I mean, there's a long list. Amputation of the penis or the glands. Death. Your child can die from it. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. And my thing is, if you look at him and you say he's perfect, then leave him alone. If you really think your child is perfect, then you would leave him alone. There's no need. When I post this video later, after we're done, I'll add all the links for references down in the description for it. If anybody wants to come on with discussion or debate at all, I definitely say feel free. If you have a mic or a camera and you want to come on and either have a statement, or you want to discuss in some way, or you want to debate anything that I've said, you feel something I've said is wrong, definitely come on. I mean, I'm very much willing to discuss anything. Just message me on Facebook or You can leave a comment. I think you can leave a comment down at the bottom. Anything like that, I can definitely, I'm very, very willing to discuss it with you. So I'll keep that open for a few minutes for everybody if they want to. So I'll leave that open for 10 minutes for open discussion. And if anybody, so yeah, if you want to come on and discuss, then just let me know. So I'll keep that open for about 10 minutes, but yeah, I guess that's one thing I didn't mention, Ashley, was the fact that doctors and hospitals are selling foreskins. Foreskin, they're using it for facial creams and for medical research. The hospitals and doctors will take the foreskin and they will sell it. If you know anything about the circumcision, you know that it costs you generally about $500 to get circumcised for the doctor to circumcise them. So doctors getting paid to do it. And on top of that, they're going around and selling these foreskins. So they're just getting more and more money in their pocket. And on top of that, they're doing multiple circumcisions a day. And it's a race. They're telling, OBGYNs are telling you, no, you have to do it while you're in the hospital. And then pediatricians are saying, no, you can bring them into the office and I'll do it. And then you have urologists, their foreskin should be retractable. It's adhered to the glands, so you need to bring them in for a circumcision. And all of this is just a race to get these children on the operating table so that doctors can cut off their foreskin and sell it. So you're paying them to mutilate your child, and then they're turning around and basically giving them your child's foreskin to sell to these companies to get more money. It's sad, really. It really is. So yeah, we're still open for debate or discussion of any sort if anybody wants on. Make a post about it. I mean, it's pretty sad. Like we're helping our daughters, we're saving our daughters, and then I've even seen people who won't pierce their daughters' ears. They think it's so horrible and it's painful for the girls, and it's just the worst thing in the world to do. But then they turn around and they'll get their sons circumcised. Like, it makes no sense to me. You're cutting off your son's skin, but you're worried about a needle in your daughter's ear. I mean, yeah, both, in my opinion, are bad. You shouldn't be doing it because your child should be the one to decide what they want done to their body cosmetically. But if you're really going to get into which is worse, you have a needle going through an ear, and then you have skinning a penis. I think skinning a penis without anesthetic is worse than piercing an ear without anesthetic. I mean, most of it is just, I find it very silly. And then I've had people try to tell me that somebody they knew had to have a circumcision when they were older. This one cracks me up when you hear that an older guy or some old men in the nursing home need a circumcision because they had infections and bacteria growing. First, I'll address these men in these nursing homes. Okay, if you're a nurse working in a nursing home and these men are getting infections and because they can't take care of their penis, but you're supposed to be taking care of it for them, then you probably are not doing your job and you're not doing it properly. Like, I would be ashamed to post or tell somebody that I knew somebody that I was taking care of this man in a nursing home, and his penis had an infection because it wasn't properly cleaned. And then when I say something like that to them, they always go, oh, no, it was the foreskin was what caused the infection. No, the fact that you were not cleaning their foreskin, they were not cleaning their glands, you were not properly caring for their penis is what caused the infection, not their foreskin. Your improper care is what caused the infection, period. And with the same thing with the older men, people try to say, oh, well, it was caused by the foreskin. I've had that one a lot. I've had somebody try to say that the foreskin caused the infection, but the guy had a medical disorder that caused lesions. If you have a medical disorder that's causing lesions, and you get a lesion under your foreskin, and you have a mole that's rubbing and causing lesions under your foreskin, then that would be the cause of the infection, not the foreskin. Foreskin does not infect itself, period. How does a foreskin infect itself? How would your finger infect itself? How would your face infect itself? How would your ear infect itself? It doesn't infect itself. Bacteria gets into the area and infects it, period. I can't stand hearing people try to say that the foreskin infects itself. It does not. Whatever caused the infection is what needs to be addressed. So if you have, an illness that's causing chafing or sores, and that's causing infections, then that's probably a case where you could possibly get circumcised. But again, how would you know that in a newborn? If the baby is fresh out of the womb, you would not know that they would have that disorder. So you do not need to circumcise your son within a day or two of his birth because you're worried that he's going to get sores on his penis. Like, it's not necessary. It really isn't. So I just find it funny when people try to argue that. Like, it's not an argument. It's not that's not true. Most of these are myths, and it's continued lies by doctors. And the other thing is the fact that Kellogg is really the one that pushed circumcision to become so renowned. Kellogg, the guy who made cereal, Kellogg, he didn't like the fact, he thought that circumcision would help keep boys from masturbating because it was gross and it was wrong. So he pushed it to become a big thing to have boys circumcised at birth. So you can thank Kellogg for all the lies that have been spread around. Enjoy your cereal because it's bloody cereal. Does anybody else have any more questions? So I'm probably going to close this here soon. I haven't gotten any questions. Nobody's really wanted to get on, so I think I've pretty much gone over everything I can think of at the moment. That's the other thing. Routine infant circumcision is not recommended by or endorsed by any health organization in the world. Even, I'm sorry, but none. No professional, none. The US, the UK, every medical professional, every medical organization in the world does not support it. They may say something like it could prevent infection, or it could prevent HIV, or it could do this, or it could do that, but that does not mean that they support it. It is not supported or endorsed by any medical agency in the world. I have somebody, I think, who is interested. In discussion. And we got a crying baby. Are you mad? We'll see what they say, and then depending, we will close. I'm hoping I at least answered questions for a few people. I know people, especially regret mothers. I'm a regret mother. Many regret mothers are worried that they feel like they need justification for why they did it. And the justification behind why you did it, it would be that you didn't know any better. That's my justification. I didn't know better. That's my justification for why I circumcised my son. I did not know better. And I will apologize every day for the rest of my life to him for what I did to him before I knew. That's your justification. But if you do it again, knowing that it was not necessary, then you have no justification. There is no reason to have done it. For men, I know men sometimes need justification on why it was done to them, and they don't understand, or they want to fight and say, no, it's what you should do because it was done to me. No, just because it was done to you doesn't mean that's what you should do. If somebody gets raped, they shouldn't go rape somebody else just because that was what was done to them. That's not how it works. If something was done to you that was not okay, it doesn't mean that's what you should do. Even if a good amount of the population thinks that, even if your friends think that, that does not mean that that's the truth. That does not mean that that's what you do. If something wrong was done to you, you go against it. You fight that. Don't back it up and say, yeah, well, that's what we do. You don't go along with it. That's not how it works. You shouldn't say that something's okay just because it was done to you. It's wrong. And I know with abuse of any sort, a lot of people try to justify the abuse that was done to them. They try to support the abuser. They try to say, oh, well, they did it because it's what I needed. They did it because it was what was best for me. They did it because this. They did it because of that. If you feel that somebody hurt you, don't support them. Don't say that they did it because you deserved it or because you needed it if you know that that's wrong. Men, you should be pissed off. You have had such a vital part, an amazing part of your body removed for no reason. You should be pissed off. And many men are suing. They are suing and winning against these doctors and even their parents for circumcising them because it's not necessary. It has harmed so many men. Amputation and botched circumcisions are so high that it's sad. You can Google. I love Google sometimes. You can Google and see some of the pain that these babies and these men have gone through because somebody botched their circumcision. There are so many men who are currently restoring their foreskin because they are not satisfied with the fact that they're circumcised. If you are interested in restoring, go again, Google how to restore. You can restore at least an idea of your foreskin. You will never get your foreskin back, but you can still try and get the next best thing. But yeah, I think we're closing because I don't have any other anybody else saying anything. I don't have any interest, so I'm going to close. I hope you guys have a good night, and I hope I answered as many questions as possible. If there are any questions that I did not answer that anybody has any interest with, feel free to leave it in the comments or to contact me via Facebook, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. See you later, guys.